qualify to be a pioneer company. The third thing that make a company to qualify as pioneer company is that the company has a capital, that's an asset, sorry, I say capital asset of 100 million naira. Invariably, what that implies is that a small company cannot be a pioneer company, because I mean, for you to say a company should have 100 million assets base, it simply means that we are saying it shouldn't be a small company, right? So that's the first thing. And then, I mean, that's one of the things we said in the previous classes. And also, we said that at the moment, we have about 71 companies that are pioneer companies. We have paper pulp, we have agriculture, we have cement, we have mining, etc. So those are the companies that make up the pioneer companies. But in the exam, I don't expect the examiner to be asking you to list the types of companies that makes up the pioneer companies. But you could be asked to list the entities that will be classified, and what are the three major criteria for you to qualify to be a pioneer company. And I said, one, you must have an asset of 100 million or above. Two, you must be adjudged by the government to operate in a sector where, one, it is either there are low players in the sector, or you are operating in a new sector, and then the sector is seen to add more value to the people. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Do you understand what I'm talking about? Is it clear to an extent?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very clear.
Yeah.
So now, the major thing that will concern us, in this class is how do we determine their tax liability, right? The first thing you need to know is that pioneer companies are under, or will be having, sorry, let me use layman language, will be having a 3-year tax holiday and renewable for 2 years, right? Meaning that the maximum a company can enjoy is how many years? 5 years.
5,
And then the minimum is what? 3 years.
3.
Do you get that now? That's the first thing we need to note. The second thing is accumulated profits within the pioneer period is ignored. That's the second thing we need to know. Accumulated profits in the pioneer period is ignored. Accumulated profits in the pioneer period is ignored. What time a pioneer period in this context means when they are having their tax holiday, right? While accumulated loss during the pioneer period will be carried forward to be relieved in the post-pioneer period for 1 year. Thus, you can relieve the loss in the post-pioneer period for 1 year. Losses are ignored. Profits are ignored. Losses can be carried forward to be relieved in the post-pioneer period for 1 year. So after that 1 year, the pioneer stuff expires. That's the loss expires, right? And then the next thing we need to know is the production day. Production day. This is the day that the council certifies that the pioneer companies begin operations. is the day that the council certified that the Pioneer company began operation. This is just a recap. You would have it in the previous video lectures on the YouTube channel where you can actually get the whole idea of what we are talking about. So this is just a recap of what we did, and we've done 2 previous illustrations on that subject. I will share the link, and also you may do well to subscribe to the channel to just be notified automatically. So when another video is uploaded, right? So having said that now, let's look at this illustration, this number 1 question, and check what are the dynamics. Because in the previous classes, what we were looking at is the accumulated profit. But this question is addressing the issues of accumulated loss. Now, as a guide for you to answer questions that are theoretical or that are of this nature, I used to advise that you check the requirements first, because the requirements will guide you on what exactly you need to answer. The requirements will guide you on what exactly you need to answer. So this requirement is saying determine the adjusted profit for relevant periods. So is determine the tax liabilities payable for the relevant year of assessment. And C, provisions of the Industrial Development Act. That's the act that guides the pioneer legislation as regards dividend payment, as regards loss made during the pioneer period, and as regards capital allowance for qualifying capital expenditure acquired during the pioneer period. So if I were to be in the exam, I know that A and B requires calculation, but for me to quickly do this C and gain these 6 marks, I don't need any calculation, right? So I'll just put the C somewhere and then note it down so that negative home support will not come and affect me and I forget. Now, the first is dividend cannot be paid out of losses in the pioneer period, right? So is that any dividend paid during the pioneer period, dividend made out of profit during the pioneer period, will be exempted from withholding tax. And don't forget that withholding tax is the final tax payment on dividend, right? So the implication is that for dividends during the pioneer period will not be subjected to withholding tax. So if you have those 2 points, you would ace your 2 marks. And I've explained that of loss. I said loss made during the pioneer period can be carried forward to the post-pioneer period. So is that the loss made in the pioneer period can only be relieved 1 year in the post-pioneer period. Don't forget that for normal companies, that's companies not under the pioneer list, losses can be carried forward indefinitely. But for pioneer period, losses made within the pioneer period can only be carried forward and exhausted within the first year of the post-pioneer period, right? And capital allowance. Any asset purchased during the pioneer period, because the company is deemed to be on tax holiday, will not be subject to capital allowance. That means there will be no need to compute capital allowance on such qualifying capital expenditure. And then assets will be deemed to be purchased. Assets purchased during the pioneer period will be deemed to be purchased in the post-pioneer period. Assets purchased in the pioneer period, because they are on tax holiday, will be assumed that it is purchased in the post-pioneer period. So during the pioneer period, there will be no initial allowance, there will be no annual allowance, and there will be no investment allowance. Although I said in the previous classes, and I'm reiterating my point again, that one of the effects of Finance Act 2023 is that investment allowance has been scrapped. Please take note of that. Beginning from 2024 year of assessment, that's effective from September 2023, investment allowance has been scrapped, and rural investment allowance has been scrapped. So capital allowance, the effect of in the post-pioneer period, the company can therefore claim initial allowance of the asset purchased during the pioneer period, and also claim annual allowance on asset purchased in the post-pioneer period. Does that clarify how you get your 6 marks? Does that clarify?
Yes, sir.
Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So now, the next thing for me is now to compute my adjusted profit. Have I continued recording? Yeah. All right. So can somebody please assist with reading this question? So from there we can pick it up. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Can I take it up now?
Yeah, please take it up.
Paper World Nigeria Limited, Ibadan, a manufacturer of paper bulk, paper and paperboard, was granted a pioneer certificate by the federal government on May 1st, 2017, for an initial period of 3 years. As a result of unfavorable business climate, which resulted in poor financial performances and several interference by officials of the Ministry of Industry, particularly on issues relating to dividend policy, treatment of losses, and capital allowances. The company, these are closed, okay. The company did not apply for an extension to the pioneer status. The company had the following statements for the first 3 years of operations.
All
Yeah,
figures are
ended.
correct.
Okay. So should we go for requirements?
Note 2.
Sir?
Go ahead to note 2.
All right. The following qualifying capital expenditure items acquired during the pioneer period were certified by the Federal Inland Revenue Service as at the end of the pioneer period. Non-industrial building.
All figures are
I think the
correct.
figures are assumed to be correct. Okay.
Note 4.
Operational results. During the year ended April 30, 2021, the company's record revealed the following.
All figures are correct. Next one.
The following additional information in respect of the operational result was provided. Note 5. Dividend income was from equity shares acquired from a Nigerian listed company. 6. Repairs and maintenance was made up of
Note 7.
Okay, general and administrative expenses comprised transport and traveling, advertisements. Legal fees consisted of collection of trade debts, allowance for doubtful debts included, bad debts written off.
That's all. So we've gone through the requirements. So now, please stay with me. It's a full mark question. And this question is one of the questions that determines the number of people that passed or failed last diet. So the first thing is, what is the production day? You determine the production day. That's the first thing you need to determine in any pioneer question you are given. You determine the production day. So when is the production day? People ask question. Right? Just stay with me. I'm treating last diet question. November 20 is here. November 2023 Pathfinder. All right. So what's the production day? What's the production day? Please help me. We said the production day is the day the company is certified to begin operation. Is that clear? Or the day in which the company is granted the pioneer certificate. That's the production. Is that clear, please? So let's comment together. So The company was granted a
That will be
pioneer
1st of May 2017.
So the production day is 1st May 2017.
2017.
You are a step ahead like this. The next thing you need to do, the step 2, you need to consider is when did the pioneer period ceases. That's the next thing you need to do. The pioneer period ceases. So when did it cease? The next thing you want to determine is that when did it cease? You are checking which year did it cease, right? So the next you need to determine is, did they apply for extension or not? If they apply for extension, it means 5 years. If they do not apply for extension, it means 3 years. Is that clear? If they apply for extension, it means 5 years. If they do not apply for extension, it means how many years? 2 years.
3 years.
3 years, beg your pardon. So here, let's check together. So when did they apply for extension?
No, they
The
didn't.
company did not apply for extension. So if the company did not apply for extension, so it means the pioneer period ceases. So we have 2018 year 1, 2019 year 2, 2020 year 3, right? So it means the day the pioneer company ceases is 31 for 2020. Is that clear? So the next thing you would need to check is dates of commencement for tax purposes. When would do we?
I think it should be 30th of April, not 31.
Okay. 30 days. So April has 30 days. Oh, well. So date of commencement for tax purposes. Thank you for that. Date of commencement for tax purposes will then be a day after the pioneer period ceases, right? So that will be what? 1/5/2020. Do you understand that now? So beginning
Yes,
from
sir.
this date, commencement rule applies. Beginning from this date, commencement rule apply. So we have determination determination of, I'm still working, determination of basis period and sorry, for tax and capital allowance, right? So here we have year of assessment. We have basis period, assessable profit. We have basis period, capital allowance. So the first year of assessment will be on preceding year basis, right? So the first year of assessment is going to be which year? I used to advise that you don't put the year of assessment first. First determine your basis period, and then from there you go ahead. So what's the date of commencement now? The date of commencement is what? 1st of May 2020, right? To the first accounting year end. So what accounting year end does it adopt? You will notice that here April is constant over, so it means the company has adopted April as the accounting year end. Are you with me? What you have here is April, and even the operational results. That's the operational result. The operational result is to April. So it means this company has adopted April 30th as the usual accounting year end. So to 30 for 2021. Are you with me? So it means this company first year of assessment will be what? 2022. Do we have anybody who has problem or who has difficulty in understanding what I just did?
Yes, sir.
You understand what I just did?
No,
It's
sir.
very clear, sir.
Okay. So
No,
then
sir.
So we have 15
Sorry, my
2020
network was broken.
34 2021. Right? With this, we do this. Then we go again to 2023 and we say we start the day after, that's 15 2021 to what? 34 2022. And then you start again for capital allowance 15 2021 to 34 2022. And then for 2024 year of assessment, on 5 2022, 34 2023. Do you have any question?
Yes, sir.
What's the question? Let me please help me.
Please, how will you know when to stop? How will you know the relevant time is?
This thing will always cover for 3 years. Commencement rule covers for 3 years. So the examiner is not
Okay.
expected to go beyond that 3 years.
Okay, sir.
In fact, you
Thank
may
you,
not
sir.
even use up to that. But just to be on the safer side, I would advise that you place your workings on 3 years because commencement rule will only cover for 3 years.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Right? So the next thing is determination of capital allowances. Right? But before to determine your capital allowance, you have to do allocation of QCE, right? So we have year of assessment, we have basis period, capital allowance, and then we have allocation of QCE. Are we together? So we have 2022 to be the first year, and the basis period is what? 15/2020 to 30/4/2021. So what are the QCEs that we have? Don't forget where we started from. We said assets purchased during the date of comment, during the pioneer period will be deemed to be purchased in the post-pioneer period. So any assets purchased between 15/2017 to 34/2020 will be assumed that it is purchased on 15/2020. Is that clear, please?
Yes, sir.
Is that clear? All right, so
Yes, sir.
since that is clear, let's quickly check our tables provided for the assets, and let's see. So we have the following qualifying capital expenditure were incurred during the pioneer period, right? So any assets purchased during the pioneer period will be deemed to be purchased in the post-pioneer period. So it means we have NIB purchased, that's non-industrial building. We have industrial building purchased, right? We have manufacturing industrial plants purchased, right? It means we have furnitures and fittings purchased in the post-pioneer period, right? And then it means we have motor vehicle purchased in the pioneer period. Are we clear to this extent? Are we clear to this extent?
Yes, sir.
Sir, please, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Sir, please, I thought since we are using commencement rule, we'll have started with actual years basis.
That is the whole rule. Please get the video on basis period for accessible profit. What that thing you are talking about has been scrapped by Finance Act 2019. So you need
Okay.
to familiarize yourself with the new rule. We have a lecture already
Okay.
on basis period for accessible profit. I would advise that you get the video and watch, so that will guide you on how to determine the basis period for commencement of business. Time will
Okay,
not
thank you.
permit me to go back to that again.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I understand that was the old rule and it has been scrapped. So you may need to get that video. All right. So let's move on. So we have additional QC purchased. We have assets purchased June 12, 2020, right? So do we have June 12, 2020 here in the first year? Please help me. Do we have it? Is June 1st, 2020 here? Ebami Soro. Don't worry, I will treat that. It's part of the stuffs I want to treat. Ebami Soro.
Yes, we
ma'am.
have it.
Yes.
Okay,
have
sure
it.
we have. I don't like a class where we don't interact. What I don't like is the background noise. So if your background is not noisy, please let us interact. Then we have March 7, 2021 too. March 7, 2021, we have motor vehicle. So 2,200, right? March
Yes, sir.
7, March 7 is also here. So I have motor vehicle, right? So I will also look into the question because you might have in the body of question some disallowable expenses that are capital in nature. So you need to check in the body of the question to see if there are part of the body of the question that are disallowed, that are disallowed because they were capital intensive stuffs. So let's check where's the operational results. We have the operational results for 2021. So we have turnover, dividend income, other comprehensive income, we have repairs and maintenance, salaries and wages, depreciation. So we have it here. Let's check. The major thing you should be looking out for when you are doing this is this item, repairs and maintenance. Because you could have items within repairs and maintenance that are capital intensive that will be disallowed and should be, and you should determine your capital allowance on. So let's see. We were told that repairs and maintenance was made up of repairs of manufacturing industrial plants, maintenance of motor vehicle, and improvements to building. Are you with me, please?
Yes, sir.
Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So improvement to building is
Sir. Yes,
disallowable
sir.
expenses, right? So it should be capitalized. So you have building here. Improvement to does it make sense to you? Does it make
Yes,
sense
sir,
to
it
you?
does.
Good.
It does. Thank you, sir.
Improvement of building, I don't understand.
Is a disallowable expenses, right? And should be capitalized. So it means you should compute capital allowance on improvement to non-industrial building. That's the whole idea, right? So now, having said that, right? So we can now come and say determination of capital allowances for 2022 year of assessment, because it's just for 2022, so I can basically do only for 2022. So what are the assets I have? I have non-industrial building, right? I have industrial building.